Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today we are talking about the situation with Pascal Siakam and the Toronto Raptors, and what the future looks like for both the player and the team. Now, the catalyst for this talk was a report recently from Shams Charania, reported that the Hawks had officially sort of put together an offer, a trade package that they sent to, or would want to send to Toronto for Pascal Siakam. That trade package reportedly included DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, and vaguely defined draft compensation. So picks of some nature, but obviously there weren't too many specifics of exactly which pick and what years, etc. But that offer was apparently made by Atlanta to Toronto, and the Raptors also reportedly turned it down. So it's kind of the first development that we've seen in a little bit on the Pascal Siakam front. About a month ago, about a month ago, I made a different video talking about Pascal Siakam and whether he would be traded, what the options for Toronto were in terms of do they want to trade him? Do they think they can keep him? Do they think the team around them is good enough to compete? So Um, that video will be linked somewhere on your screen right about now if you want to watch that, because a lot of that information is still relevant because very little movement has happened on any sort of front with Pascal Siakam this offseason, right? The Raptors obviously turned this trade offer down, but they haven't necessarily said that they're fully unwilling to trade Siakam. Um, the implication is that they're looking for a bigger or better offer before they sort of entertain the idea of sending him away. But that's kind of been their standpoint all off season, and that's led some people in the NBA space to basically come out and say that they feel like a Siakam trade is inevitable, right? That Siakam, regardless of when it happens, will be traded by the Raptors at some point. That Toronto's roster, as constructed, isn't really going anywhere, and that they should just try and sort of pull the plug, trade him, and get what assets they can. Now, I understand why some people might believe that, right? I understand the reasons for maybe some of the less optimistic outlooks on the Raptors for this season. I don't quite get the idea that this is some sort of inevitable outcome, right? That there is no possible way that the Raptors could exceed expectations. There's no possible way that they don't trade Siakam. There's no scenario here where Siakam remains on the Raptors long term. I'm not really sure that we're at that point yet, or I haven't seen enough evidence to suggest that we definitively are. To me, it still feels like we're maybe not quite 50-50, but we haven't gotten to 100% he is going to be traded, the Raptors aren't going to do anything, they're going to miss the playoffs, etc., etc. So it comes down to a weird space here for both Siakam and for the Raptors. Um, Again, a lot of this was stuff that was talked about in the previous video, but for Siakam, it's worth noting here, he's going into the final year of his deal, and the reports and the rumors have indicated that he hasn't really had too much meaningful discussion with the Raptors about a long-term extension. And from what we've been hearing, it's not even necessarily that the two sides are not on the same page in terms of numbers and negotiations, more along the lines of they're just not really talking about it at all at this point in the season, or off season rather. So it gets a little strange there. Siakam has not reportedly engaged the Raptors too much about the extension. Um, there have also been statements, I'm not sure if it was from Siakam directly, but sort of from his side, from his camp, that he's not really interested in signing an extension with whatever team he would be traded to as well, right? So he hasn't really talked about an extension with the team he's currently on. He said that he's not super enthusiastic about signing an extension with the team that he gets traded to. So at this point, it really does feel like Pascal Siakam's plan is to play out this final year of his contract and then go test the free agent market. Just go see what you're worth on the open market and try to get your max deal. So it's a bit of an interesting one, right? A lot of players today are more interested in the extension now, in securing the money as soon as possible. Siakam seems like he's a little bit more enthusiastic about betting on himself. He just came off of a fantastic season. If he could do the same here, put up similar numbers in this final contract year, then he would have a lot of suitors in free agency next summer. He's probably going to have a lot of suitors no matter what. But another impressive statistical season just backs that up even more and gives him more leverage to start looking for more money and better deals. So that's what it's looking like from Siakam's standpoint. He doesn't want or hasn't said that he wants an extension either in Toronto or anywhere else, and it feels like he wants to sort of test free agency. If you're the Raptors, that is not a good that's not really a good rumor for you to want to deal with, right? And it forces them into a decision here. If Siakam really will not talk extensions, either with Toronto or a potential trade partner, you would end up with a very risky scenario, right? Either you wait out this final year of Siakam's contract and attempt to outbid every other team straight up in free agency, which, as his former team, you will have a slight advantage in terms of how much time and how much money you can offer him, so you do have that. But the downside to that plan is that if you don't outbid those teams, if Siakam goes elsewhere, then he walks for nothing. You get no compensation really whatsoever here, and one of your best players ends up leaving the team, and you get nothing in return. The alternative is that you trade him now, or sometime this season, right? Sometime before the trade deadline. And try to get some assets back for him if you don't think that he'll re-sign, and if he is really serious about not wanting to sign an extension. Now, the downside of that is that you're probably going to get fewer assets in return. If you won't commit to an extension, then his trade value will decline, since the team trading for him can only be guaranteed of a 1-year rental, right? An extension beyond that point is something that he hasn't really talked about. And then the team that you trade him to will be in the same situation that the Raptors themselves were, just sort of waiting and seeing at the end of this season, will we be able to outbid other teams in free agency? So because of that, if the Raptors are looking to trade Siakam, they are not going to get the full value of Pascal Siakam. And that seems to be the weird sort of triangle here, right? If you take a look at it, we'll start at the top here, right? You turned down an offer because you felt that there wasn't enough there for trading away Pascal Siakam. Well, you need to trade Pascal Siakam, because if he's not going to sign an extension, he's going to walk for nothing. So you need to trade him, quote unquote, right? That's the second point of the triangle here. You have to trade him, because if you don't trade him, then this is a really weird analogy, but moving to the third point in the triangle, he walks away for nothing, right? So you can't let him walk away for nothing, so you need to trade him. But since he won't re-sign an extension, you're not going to be able to trade him for his full value. But you're turning down offers because it's not the full value. But you can't have the full value if Siakam won't sign a long-term extension. Do you see the problem now, right? The Raptors either want Siakam to stay or they want to trade him for his absolute maximum value. If he's not staying, he needs to be traded. If he's going to be traded, then you're not going to get max value, and you couldn't get max value because you couldn't re-sign him because he's not staying. And we just go around and around and around in this weird circle. All the while, no progress seems to be made towards an actual trade. So, I don't know. The situation seems pretty rough here. And if you're the Raptors, you're going to have to make a decision pretty soon here. In the previous video I made about this, I mentioned the fact that the Raptors, technically speaking, didn't have to trade Siakam at all. They could play out this final season and see where that gets them, but that is becoming more and more of a risk here. If the Raptors don't sort of make a move and they just run it with this lineup, with Siakam, then they've got to beat those negative projections. They have to do definitively and significantly better than where a lot of people have sort of been putting them. Otherwise, this is all going to be viewed as a pretty sizable failure, right? They have to play well. They need to be one of the better teams in the East. They need to make the playoffs, and they need to probably make some noise in the playoffs as well. Otherwise, people are going to view this as just a futile effort, right? Why did we commit this? Why did we play out this season just to be sort of middle of the road, just to miss the playoffs or make a first round exit in the playoffs or something like that? And I don't know if I agree with those opinions wholeheartedly, but that is the opinion that a lot of people are going to have, right? If you're not going to make a deep run, then maybe they should just trade Siakam and try to start this whole thing over. Is it 100% fair? No, it's not. But it's the way that the sort of media and the fan base is looking. So if you're Toronto, I mean, if you're Toronto, you got to make a choice here, right? Do you commit to Siakam? Are you willing to take the risk of just playing him out for one more season, then seeing what happens afterwards and run the risk of letting him walk for nothing? Or do you trade him now? And if you trade him now, you have to be okay with not trading him for his full value because he's only got 1 year left on his contract. It really does feel like those are the two options left. They either play it out and take that risk, or they trade him and take a similar but slightly different risk. So it has not been a great situation here for the Raptors, but the choice does need to be made here. If they wait right up to the trade deadline, there is a chance that Pascal Siakam's value goes up. Yeah, there's also the chance that his value plummets and that your team itself gets into a situation record-wise where you lose leverage. So I don't know what the decision is going to be, but there needs to be one sometime in the next I don't know, couple months at the latest. But that is all we've got here for Siakam. The trade talks are kind of sort of heating up, but at the end of the day, we're still in the same situation that we were a month ago when we were talking about this. So that's all I've got. Let me know what you think. What did you think of that latest offer from Atlanta, Hunter Griffin and draft compensation? Did you think that that was too high, too low? Do you think the Raptors should be trying to trade Siakam at this point, or do you think they'd be better served trying to sort of roll the dice and play it out? Please feel free to let me know. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.